The last normal day in the town of Beaconsfield was October 6th, 2021. A crisp Wednesday, unremarkable except for the unseasonal heat wave. Kids played in the streets after school. Lawns were half-mowed. Mailboxes were open. People lived quietly on Weaver Street. 15 identical homes lined up in perfect symmetry, each one with a porch light, a garden gnome, and the illusion of safety. And then, at 7:13 p.m., house number 11 exploded. It wasn't a dramatic fireball or anything out of a movie. It was more like the house folded inward, then collapsed. By the time firefighters arrived, there was barely anything left but rubble and smoke. Inside, they found no bodies. Not even bones. The family of 4 who lived there, James and Marissa Crowley, and their 2 children, had seemingly vanished before the collapse. No neighbors saw them leave. No one reported a moving truck. The Crowleys had hosted a barbecue 2 nights before. Their refrigerator was still full. Dishes were still in the sink. The town was shaken. Accidental gas explosion, the city claimed. But the gas company quickly denied responsibility. No leaks. No work orders. No explanation. And then, the letters started showing up. Each neighbor on Weaver Street received an identical envelope. Plain white, no stamp, no address. Just their name typed on the front. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 4 words. "We are still watching." The letters were dismissed as a cruel prank. No fingerprints. No surveillance footage of them being delivered. Local police shrugged. No crimes, no suspects. But on October 9th, just 3 days after the Crowley home collapsed, house number 3 caught fire. A slow, creeping blaze that started in the attic. No wiring issues, no candles, no one home at the time. The owners, an elderly couple named the Blakes, were out of town. The fire destroyed everything, and once again, there were no witnesses. By now, the story was gaining traction online. The Curse of Weaver Street, some were calling it. Others said it was arson. Conspiracy forums speculated that the Crowleys were whistleblowers. Someone had to be targeting the neighborhood. Then came the footage. A teenager named Mason Lang, who lived in house number 7, had set up a wildlife camera in his backyard to track raccoons. On the night of October 9th, the night of the second fire, the motion sensor was triggered at 2:42 a.m. The footage showed a person standing completely still in the Lang's backyard, facing the house. Not moving, not blinking, wearing a featureless black hoodie with the hood up, hands in pockets. They stood there for 11 full minutes, then turned and walked away. No visible face, no sound. The Lang family moved out the next day. More letters arrived. This time, hand-delivered under doormats. "You've seen too much." Residents started fleeing Weaver Street. Within 10 days, half the homes were vacant. Local police increased patrols but found nothing. No arrests, no leads. The media called it mass hysteria. The city offered relocation incentives. But not everyone left. Detective Callie Marin, recently reassigned investigator from Chicago with a reputation for taking cold cases, decided to move into house number 9. She called it a personal project, though no one knew what she meant. She brought no family, no partner. Just her, a loaded Glock, and a wall of printed crime scene photos that never left her briefcase. Callie began going door to door, asking residents questions. Most refused to speak. But one neighbor, a quiet woman named Natalie Breen, eventually invited her in. Natalie had lived on Weaver Street for 32 years. She was there before the Crowleys, before the Langs, before even the Blakes. "They've been watching for a long time," she told Callie, her hands shaking over a chipped teacup. "Long before the letters. The first time I saw them, it was 1999. A man in my backyard, just standing, staring through the glass." Callie asked who they were. Natalie whispered, "They were never people." Not really. That night, Callie reviewed Old Town records. Something was off. The houses on Weaver Street were built in 1988, according to official documentation. But city blueprints dated the land's usage back to 1934. Before that, it was listed as restricted federal property, Code B 217R. She filed a public records request, but it was denied. "National security," they said. Then she found a name buried in a footnote, Dr. Ezra Keene, listed as the original land surveyor and overseer of a containment zone. She searched for him. He was declared dead in 1973. Except, Callie tracked a recurring power bill in the name E. Keene, still being paid for a P.O. box in town. She followed the trail and found an abandoned cabin deep in the woods just outside Beaconsfield. Inside, old scientific logs, disintegrated reels of film, and fragments of photos showing humanoid figures with featureless faces, standing among partially built homes. The last journal entry, dated 1986, read, "They are not violent unless threatened. They do not belong here, but this place holds them. I warned the city not to build above the nest. They refused. Now the watchers observe." On October 22nd, Callie heard tapping on her bedroom window at 2:46 a.m. She got up, gun drawn. Nothing. But outside her front door was a small package wrapped in butcher paper. No label. Inside, a VHS tape with the words, "For you, detective." She found an old player at a thrift store and watched the tape. It was 10 minutes of black and white surveillance footage. Silent, shaky, but clear enough. It showed the Crowley family inside House 11. At first, just eating dinner. Then, as time sped up, pacing nervously, checking windows, locking doors, whispering to each other. Then, at 3:14 a.m., the camera shook violently, and the last frame showed the entire family standing in a circle, holding hands, eyes rolled back. Behind them, in the shadows, several tall, faceless figures stood perfectly still. The screen went black. The house imploded. Callie tried to submit the footage to the department, but it was lost during transfer. The tape disappeared from her home. Her laptop wiped itself. The city claimed it was a power surge. On October 30th, house number 9, the one she lived in, collapsed inward, exactly like House 11. But Callie was gone. Vanished. No trace. Only a single note left behind, pinned to her bedroom wall. They don't like questions. They only like silence. Today, Weaver Street is fenced off. Condemned. The homes left standing are overgrown, lifeless, and marked for demolition. No official cause of the destruction was ever given. But those who lived there, those who made it out, still receive letters every year on October 6th. Just 4 words. "We are still watching." Echoes from apartment 6A. The calls started on a rainy night in late November. 3 of them, all anonymous. All placed to the Cleveland Police Department's non-emergency tip line. Each call the same. Check the 6th floor of 271 Medford Avenue. Apartment 6A. Before it spreads. Officers responded the first time, casually. A welfare check. The building was a crumbling, once luxurious 1920s high-rise turned Section 8 housing. Elevators that worked when they wanted to. Walls thin enough to hear your neighbor breathe. The kind of place people lived in because they had to, not because they chose to. Apartment 6A was registered to a woman named Naomi Glass, age 29. No prior arrests. No complaints. The building manager hadn't seen her in a few days, but said that wasn't unusual. She keeps to herself. Works nights. Always polite. Police knocked. No answer. The second call came 2 nights later. Same voice. Same warning. Only this time, it ended with something chilling. It's already inside the walls. That night, officers forced entry into 6A. They found the apartment empty, but not unoccupied. The place was pristine. Not neat, not tidy, surgically clean. No dishes. No clutter. No dust. Not even fingerprints on the remote. It didn't feel lived in. It felt preserved. The air inside was cold. Too cold for a heated building. The thermostat had been turned all the way down. The walls were covered in newspaper clippings, carefully arranged with thumbtacks, most dating back decades. Every article referenced missing people, all from a 6-block radius around Medford Avenue. 17 cases. All unsolved. The kitchen contained only canned food. Labels removed. The bedroom had a single mattress, no bed frame. A small notebook sat beside it. On the first page, "I hear them when I'm quiet." On the second page, "They come through the pipes." And on the third, "Don't look into the drain." The next 20 pages were blank. The police filed it as a wellness concern and left a notice for Naomi to contact the department. They didn't return, but Detective Colin Merrick did. Colin wasn't on duty that night. He wasn't assigned to the case. But something about the voice on the calls, the words about spreading, had lodged in his mind. He had worked missing persons in that neighborhood for nearly a decade. And something about 6A felt wrong. He pulled the old files. The 17 missing cases weren't new to him. What he hadn't noticed before, what no one had noticed, was the pattern. Every person had lived, at some point, on the 6th floor of 271 Medford Avenue. Not all at once. Not even in the same decade. Some had moved in, stayed a year, vanished. Others were guests, boyfriends, tenants who sublet. Different ages, races, genders. No clear connection. Except the floor. Colin returned to the building the next day, officially off the clock, and started knocking on doors. Most people didn't answer. Those who did wouldn't talk. Except for one woman, Gladys, 83, living in 6D since 1969. She invited him in and offered him tea she never drank. "They don't like visitors," she said. "Who?" "The ones in the crawl spaces. The ones that hum." Gladys said they had been there since, before the building went bad. That sometimes she'd hear whispers in the water pipes. And that Naomi from 6A tried to talk back. She also said this: "There's no real 6A. Not anymore. That place is just skin over a hole." Colin left with a smile and no answers. That night, he listened to the 3 anonymous calls again. Something felt off. The voice wasn't disguised, but it wasn't panicked either. It was warning, not reporting. Almost like the caller was trying to stop something, not solve it. He ran the voice through software. Match found. The caller was Naomi Glass, the woman who lived in 6A. Only she hadn't been seen since October 2nd. Over a month before the first call. The detective ordered a forensic sweep of 6A. It came back with only one set of fingerprints, Naomi's. But they weren't just on the doorknobs or handles. They were on the floor, on the ceiling, and inside the bathroom sink drain. That's when he noticed the apartment's ventilation system had been sealed off with duct tape from the inside. Something Naomi had wanted to keep out. Or in. Colin began experiencing strange things after that. Voicemails with no audio. His phone turning on by itself at night. And then a package delivered to his office with no return label. Inside, a single cassette tape. It was a recording. One he later traced to a therapy session Naomi Glass had attended at a local clinic 6 months before her disappearance. The therapist's voice was calm. Naomi's voice was anything but. "It's not just in my head. It talks to me. In the pipes. In the walls. When I try to sleep, it gets louder. I covered the mirrors. I won't let it copy me. The others? They didn't leave. They were swallowed. That apartment is a throat." Colin couldn't sleep after that. He tried to get back into 6A, but the building had suddenly been condemned due to a structural risk. Tenants were being relocated. Police were told to back off. Every request to reopen the case was denied by his superiors. Every time he asked questions, he was told the building was too unstable for further investigation. So he went in alone. November 30th, 1:08 a.m. Body cam on. Glock loaded. Flashlight in hand. He entered through the underground boiler room. Climbed 5 floors in pitch dark because the elevators were cut. When he reached the 6th floor, his camera began to glitch, static lines, audio distortions, his own voice echoing before he spoke. He entered 6A. Everything was exactly as before, except the mattress was gone. In its place was a hole in the floor, about the size of a manhole. Perfectly circular. No debris around it. Just smooth black depth. He knelt beside it and listened. There was sound. Not voices. Not machinery. Breathing. Deep, low, rhythmic. Like the building itself was alive. He never released the footage. He never spoke about what he saw when he looked into the hole. All anyone knows is that Colin Merrick resigned from the force that week. Sold his house. Moved 4 states away. No social media. No contact. But 2 months later, his sister received a postcard with no return address. On the back, in Colin's handwriting, were 6 words. Don't live above the 6th floor. As for 271 Medford Avenue, it was demolished in April 2022. The land is still empty. No developer will touch it. And every so often, people walking past the chain-link fence say they hear a hum, low and steady, rising up from the soil. Almost like pipes breathing, or something still waiting to be let out. Graystown wasn't the sort of place people ended up in by choice. Tucked into the northern hills of Wyoming, it was a town of dirt roads, rusting mailboxes, and secrets buried in shallow snow. Population, 612. Or so the sign claimed. But if you asked around in 2020, most residents would have told you the same thing. People go missing here more than they should. It wasn't an urban legend. It was a pattern, one no one could prove. One no one wanted to prove. People just disappeared. A mechanic who never opened shop again. A teenage girl who vanished during a snowstorm. A drifter seen at the diner one night and gone by morning. No bodies. No evidence. No answers. Then came the case of Rebecca Lane. She was a reporter from Billings, Montana, known for diving into cold cases that no one else touched. She'd been tipped off anonymously. Someone had sent her a flash drive filled with grainy images of missing persons flyers, local police memos, and something else, a single audio file. 8 seconds long. A man whispering, "Graystown keeps what it likes." Rebecca packed her things and drove out the next day. She checked into a motel near the edge of town, posed as a travel blogger, and began asking questions. At first, people humored her. But when she brought up the disappearances, doors started closing. One man, a Vietnam vet named Willard Haskins, agreed to meet her at a gas station parking lot just after midnight. He came with a flask and a warning. "There's a house up in the pines," he told her. "Just past Ridge Creek. Looks empty, but it ain't. No mailbox. No driveway. It's where they go. They. The ones that vanish. Not all of them, but some. Like they're chosen." Rebecca asked him who owned the house. Willard just shook his head. "Someone who don't like to be seen." She found the house the next day. Willard was right. There was no path, just tire tracks that vanished into the snow. The structure looked half abandoned. Paint peeled, shutters broken, one window boarded up. But there were signs of life. A working chimney. A freshly shoveled path to the back door. Curtains that moved when the wind didn't blow. Rebecca returned that night. She waited in her car for hours. At 2:06 a.m., a light came on in the upstairs window. Then a shadow passed across the glass. Tall, slow-moving, human. She didn't approach. She left. And she filed a report the next morning with the county sheriff's office. No action was taken. The sheriff, Colt Rayner, had been in charge for nearly 20 years. A man carved from stone, loyal to the silence of small towns. He told Rebecca to let the dead stay gone. Told her she was stirring up old ghosts that didn't want waking. She didn't stop. She began digging through old county property records. The house in the woods wasn't listed. Hadn't been taxed. Wasn't zoned. Officially, it didn't exist. But she found something. A building permit from 1974 signed by a man named Ernest R. Quill. No one in town remembered him. But Rebecca found a photograph in an archive at the Graystown Library. A black and white portrait of a town council from 1975. One man, standing at the end, face partially obscured, was labeled Yar Quill. The caption underneath the photo read, "For service to the preservation of local history." Rebecca ran the name. Nothing. No obituary. No grave. No criminal record. But she found a single mention of Ernest Quill in a 1983 newspaper clipping. A woman named Charla Peterson had accused him of stalking her. Claimed he watched her through windows. That she would find old photographs left on her porch. Pictures of herself she didn't remember being taken. No charges were ever filed. Charla disappeared 3 months later. Her body was never found. Rebecca was convinced this man, Quill, was the key. But every time she mentioned his name, people changed the subject. Even Willard refused to speak again. Said he'd said too much. So Rebecca went back to the house. This time, she went inside. She left her camera rolling in her coat pocket. The footage was found days later. It showed her walking up the back steps. The door creaked open. She hesitated, then entered. The last thing the camera caught was a sound, soft, rhythmic. Like film running through an old reel projector. Then static. Rebecca Lane was never seen again. Her rental car was found in a ditch 3 miles away. The keys were still in the ignition. Her phone had been thrown into the creek. Her motel room was untouched. But her laptop, where she kept her notes, was missing. The county ruled it a likely accident. A fall in the woods. Cold exposure. Case closed. But someone had already uploaded her final blog entry before her disappearance. A draft, time-stamped and scheduled to publish the morning after she vanished. The title, "The Collector is Real." In it, she described the house. The photos on the walls. Hundreds of them, she wrote, black and white, yellowing, nailed up like trophies. Every missing person she had researched. Their last known outfits. Their last known moments. Captured on film from angles they never noticed. Moments they never consented to. She ended the post with a question. What kind of monster doesn't kill you, just keeps you? 2 weeks later, a fire engulfed the house in the woods. No official cause determined. No bodies found. But buried in the ash was a metal case. Inside, hundreds of undeveloped rolls of film. Each labeled by date. Each one more recent than the last. The final roll? dated the same night Rebecca disappeared. Authorities never confirmed what was on the negatives, but rumors spread that one photo from the final roll was leaked to a journalist in Chicago. It showed a dark room, a wooden chair, a single woman sitting, bound at the wrists. Rebecca Lane, her eyes wide, a blurred figure in the foreground, impossibly tall, standing behind the camera. The Greystown disappearances officially remain unsolved, but locals still whisper about the collector, a man or perhaps a thing obsessed with freezing people in time. Not killing, just keeping, watching. And in a town as small and quiet as Greystown, one thing is certain. People are still vanishing, and someone is still taking pictures.